Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story. Our focus remains on South Africa and the mounting political uncertainty in the country since its 29th of May general election. Troubles for President Cyril Ramaphosa are far from over as he struggles to stake claim to form a new government. After days of deliberations, President Ramaphosa said the African National Congress will invite other political parties to form a government of national unity.
Agreed that we will invite political parties to form a government of national unity as the best option to move our country forward. The modalities of the government of national unity will take into account the conditions prevailing at this moment in our country's history. The purpose of the government of national unity must be first and foremost be to tackle the pressing issues that South Africans want to be addressed.
The ANC's National Executive Committee has been holding marathon meetings to take a decision on how to proceed with government formation. This is because for the first time in 30 years, the ANC failed to get majority votes. It won 40% of the vote, its lowest score ever.
The discussions of the NEC, we have looked at various different scenarios for setting up government. As the ANC, with its 40% return of votes, cannot really set up government without cooperating with others. We have already held constructive discussions with a number of parties: the Economic Freedom Fighters, the Inkatha Freedom Party, the Democratic Alliance, the National Freedom Party, the Patriotic Alliance. We have also engaged our alliance partners to brief them on the process and will continue to seek their invaluable views and guidance.
The ANC has ruled South Africa since Nelson Mandela led it to victory in the 1994 elections that marked the end of apartheid. The general election verdict has put South Africa in a political deadlock. Though the ANC is still the largest party, it can no longer govern alone. Ramaphosa said the ANC negotiators had already held talks with several parties, including the leftist Economic Freedom Fighters, or the EFF, the Zulu nationalist Inkatha Freedom Party, the IFP, the centre-right Democratic Alliance, and the anti-immigration Patriotic Alliance. However, it remains unclear if they had all agreed to join hands with the ANC.
The NEC has agreed that this moment calls for the broadest unity of the people of South Africa. This moment also calls for multi-party cooperation and multi-stakeholder collaboration if we are to overcome the severe challenges that confront our country.
The ANC has been divided over who to share power with. Some ANC leaders are casting doubt over the workability of such a broad coalition. President Cyril Ramaphosa also noted that the ANC had ideological and political differences with other parties, but said South Africans expected its leaders to overcome them and find common ground to work together for the greater good.
The ANC notes that we do have ideological and political differences with several parties in our political landscape. However, we will not preclude the possibility of working with any party so long as it is in the public interest and it is in keeping with the principles that they have articulated.
Policy differences are particularly stark between the two largest parties. The ANC has reached out to the EFF and the DA. The DA secured 87 seats with a liberal free market agenda, while the EFF won 39 seats and backs land redistribution and nationalization of economic sectors.
Of our engagement with political parties, And we have engaged with everybody, and we're still talking to even others, even smaller parties, because we want to bring everybody on board, because South Africans want us to work together for their sake. And we have said as the ANC, we will prioritize the people. We don't want instability.
There had been speculation that the ANC might seek to form a minority government or a coalition with one or two major parties. But a possible deal with the DA caused an outcry within the ANC, with many seeing it at odds with the party's left-leaning traditions.
The majority of South Africans did not vote for those parties that are in the Moonshot Pact or whatever they call themselves. The majority of South Africans voted for progressive parties that advance the interests of the black South African. And these different parties, some of them are like, I consider them to be offshoots of the DA, where they have been formed in order to garner the black vote for the DA. The people have rejected them.
For more, we have with us international relations expert, Dr. Charles Sankala, who is joining us live from Johannesburg. Thank you for being with us, Doctor.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure having me.
Right, now, can you provide a detailed summary of the key outcomes from the ANC's NEC meeting that it held yesterday, particularly in relation to the coalition talks and the party's future direction?
It is unprecedented in the history of South Africa, where we can find that a ruling political party who has been in power for more than 30 years can succumb to certain situations in terms of negotiating to political parties that was also viewed as opponents to the governance of South Africa. It also speaks to it that the evolving of democracy in South Africa has reached a stage where now there will be no longer a majority, a political party, especially where ANC is concerned. Various aspects has been tabled down in terms of the National Executive Committee, which was held yesterday, and many factors or factions within the ANC had different views. Yes, some of them had views of having an advantage of going in coalition or a government of national unity with either the DA or the other political parties. But if you look at the spectrum of political parties, for instance, the DA itself, has been viewed as a minority party that actually the ANC has been fighting against for the past 30 years, even before that. Going in a marriage with the DA to others, especially the members of the ANC who actually also voted for the ANC, and including those who are in the NEC, has been viewed as a disgrace, as compromising of the policies. But on the other side as well, you look at a certain type of political parties, the MK, the EFF, and many others. These has been disgruntled members of the ANC who were not happy with the governance of ANC, especially in the last two administrations of the ANC, especially at the hands of President Cyril Ramaphosa, who was viewed his leadership of a minority ANC members rather than a collective members of parliament. And that also signifies a compromise of policies. But we shall see what decisions they have made. Yes. Although these other political parties in different parts or sides has made some demands in terms of which positions or which policies they have to bend, especially when you talk about the DA who has been against the Section 25 of the Constitution of the expropriating of land without compensation.
Right. Doctor, how does the ANC plan to approach the formation of a government of national unity? And what are the expected roles and contributions of the other political parties in this new government structure?
Firstly, they have to align their policies. I think certain policies has to be compromised, and certain integrity has to be compromised. Certain ethical, operation of the longest organization in Africa, formed in 1906, has to be compromised. And it is not an easy exercise, that can be tabled out, especially according to the Constitution of South Africa, that after the elections, within 14 days, Parliament must open. And in this predicament, it is quite impossible to open Parliament within 14 days, because once the compromise of policies of political parties has been achieved, that's when now they have to talk about how do they share the power, who becomes the deputy president, who becomes the speaker of the National Assembly, and many other aspects.
Yeah. And given the ANC's decision to form this government of national unity after losing the majority, what measures are being put in place to ensure that this coalition partnership will be stable and effective in governing, as some are calling this a government of disunity?
ANC, they are at the leisure of opposition political parties. For the first time, they are not in charge. They can't put any mechanism in terms of making this a success. This is like a marriage. We've seen, yes, South Africa has gone in the government of national unity post the 1994 elections, but we saw other political parties such as the IFP coming out of that coalition. Only the South African Communist Party who continued with the marriage of the ANC. So it is quite difficult, especially now that they have to keep those key performance areas and indicators to compromise their policies and to choose those leaders that will represent the interest. And I think from here, if there's any not agreement, especially from the National Executive Committee, we shall see some more disgruntled ANC members because of the decisions that the NEC will decide might not be welcome to other members.
Doctor, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa and for your valued insights and analysis.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alyson Grange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost.